I accidentally ended up in my girlfriend's best friend Jenna's bed. I thought she would be furious, but instead, she wasn't angry at all and even suggested we take things further. Just as our relationship was getting more intimate and the plot was about to reach its climax, my phone rang. It was my girlfriend calling, but Jenna quickly grabbed the phone, saying, "Jack is busy right now, he doesn't have time." "We just started," she said it nonchalantly. To my surprise, my girlfriend Carla's heart-wrenching cries came through the phone. "Jack, I was wrong. Please come back. Actually, I did it on purpose." It turned out that some time ago, after a car accident, Carla pretended to have amnesia. She flirted with others behind my back, and even when I caught her kissing a young guy, she didn't care. That day, I received a call from Carla's friend. "Jack, Carla is drunk again. You need to come to the Platinum Club and take her home." The call ended abruptly. I sighed helplessly. My girlfriend Carla was a typical drunkard. Once she started drinking, she wouldn't stop until she was completely wasted. 10 minutes later, I drove to the Buckingham KTV and headed straight to their usual VIP room. As I approached the door, I heard laughter inside. "Carla is smart, pretending to have amnesia, so she can play around openly," one girl said. "Unlike us, we have to be careful and hide it from our boyfriends." The door wasn't fully closed, so I peeked inside and saw Carla leaning against a young guy's shoulder, clearly drunk, lazily smiling. "Who likes Jack? I can give him to you," she said. The girls quickly waved their hands. "No, no, no. We wouldn't dare compete with you for a man." One of them added, "But honestly, Jack was quite attractive back then." "Yeah, that aloof face, those cold eyes, he was so cool." Another girl teased. Good grief. These women were making fun of me. "Hey, what are you talking about? How dare you mock Jack?" Suddenly, Lisa stood up and shouted, stopping them. She was the one who had called me earlier and was relatively close to me among Carla's friends. Hearing Lisa's words, the room fell silent, and everyone looked apologetically at Carla. Unexpectedly, Carla just smiled faintly and said, "Actually, you're not wrong. Jack doesn't give me the same feeling he used to." The girls started teasing again. "Carla is tired of him. Jack was the most handsome guy in our school. And you're tired of him? So jealous. I wish I had a boyfriend like that," another girl chimed in. Lisa shook her head helplessly and started to leave the room. "Lisa, where are you going?" someone asked. "I'm going to the bathroom," Lisa replied irritably. As she opened the door, she saw me standing there and exclaimed, "Jack!" Her words made the room fall silent again, and all eyes turned to me. Carla, who had been slightly tipsy, suddenly stood up, seemingly sobering up a bit. "Jack, when did you get here?" she asked, her voice tinged with panic. I had known Carla Winters since college. We were both business management students. At that time, my family was in financial trouble due to my father's medical expenses. I had to juggle my studies and part-time jobs to make ends meet. Carla, on the other hand, came from a wealthy family with no financial worries. She took an interest in me and pursued me enthusiastically. Meanwhile, another girl in our class, Jenna Summers, was also vying for my attention. They knew about my financial difficulties and often came to the cafe where I worked or joined me in the cafeteria, ordering lots of food and asking me to help finish it. Over time, I got used to their help. Eventually, Carla's boldness won out. One night, she got drunk and dragged me to the rooftop, confessing her feelings. "Jack, I like you. I want you to be my boyfriend. If you refuse, I'll jump." Seeing her drunk, I reluctantly agreed, and she recorded my words on her phone. Soon, everyone knew we were together. Jenna was heartbroken and demanded I choose between them. I told her, "I've already agreed to be with Carla." "I'm sorry, Jenna." Carla was very controlling, and any closeness between Jenna and me would make her furious. Over time, Jenna and I drifted apart, becoming just ordinary classmates. Carla helped pay off my family's debts, which relieved a lot of pressure. We had been together since our sophomore year until now. A year ago, just as I was about to propose to Carla, she had a serious car accident. When she woke up, she claimed she didn't remember me. The doctor diagnosed her with selective amnesia, remembering most people and events, but forgetting me. This shocked and confused me. Despite her family and friends confirming our relationship, she kept her distance from me. The doctor and friends reassured me that her amnesia might be temporary and that she might eventually remember. I had no choice but to accept this reality, grateful she was safe. However, seeing her claim to be single and flirt with other men was incredibly frustrating. I kept telling myself it was temporary and that she would eventually remember and come back to me. For a year, I lived in this self-deception, but then I discovered she had been faking her amnesia. The moment I realized the truth, my heart felt like it was being torn apart. I clenched my fists, feeling numb and disoriented. I tried to gauge if she had heard their conversation. With a cold expression, I asked, "Did I come at a bad time, interrupting your drinking?" From my tone, she knew I had heard everything. Carla's face showed a hint of panic but quickly returned to her usual calm and superior demeanor. "All right, since you know, I'll be honest. I didn't lose my memory. I just said that now because you no longer give me the same feeling. We've been together for almost 7 years, and it's getting boring. Today you caught me, so let's clear things up." At that moment, I vaguely sensed what Carla was about to say, and my heart started to race. She sat back down next to the young guy, smiling as she explained, "A year ago, after the car accident, I realized how fragile and short life is. I didn't want to continue living a dull life. I wanted to find passion and excitement again. Jack, you understand, right?" I sighed deeply. Seeing that I understood, she nodded in satisfaction. "Thank you for understanding. Let's stay friends. I'll give you some breakup money." I shook my head with a bitter smile. "No need. You've helped me enough. Let's make a clean break to avoid any misunderstandings." I glanced at the young guy beside her. Carla frowned slightly, looking a bit surprised, but said nothing more. "All right, you guys continue. I'm leaving." With that, I turned and left. Behind me, I heard murmurs. "Wow, Carla, are you really breaking up with Jack? I don't believe it. Carla is just drunk and talking nonsense. It's not the first time. Yeah, every time Jack coaxes her, she comes back. Their breakups are like regular arguments." Lisa said, "I think Jack is really angry this time." Carla snorted, "I hope he stands up for himself this time. It's boring when he always comes back to coax me." "True. Jack loves you too much to leave you." As the voices faded, I couldn't help but laugh at myself. Boring, huh? All right, Carla, as you wish. Back home, I packed some essentials. I didn't want any of the things she bought me. I threw the engagement ring, couple rings, and car keys into a drawer. After some thought, I left Carla a note. "I'm leaving. Do whatever you want with the things I didn't take. Throw them away if you like." Dragging my suitcase out of the apartment complex, I felt lost. What should I do next? I hadn't even thought about where to go. After some hesitation, I called Paul. "Hey, Paul? It's Jack. I broke up with her." "What? Broke up?" Paul was surprised, then chuckled. "I get it. You guys had another fight, right?" Paul and I met through basketball and quickly became friends due to our shared interests. He was one of my few friends in the city. I'm not a fan of crowds, and being with Carla all these years, I felt like a caged bird. She supported me financially, and I did some writing for public accounts and social media at home. My social circle was small. "This time it's not a fight, Paul." She lied to me. "We really broke up." There was a moment of silence on the other end before Paul said, "All right, where are you? I'll come get you." I told him my location, and he quickly arrived. Without asking where I wanted to go, he drove me to his small villa. As soon as we entered, I saw the coffee table in the living room filled with drinks and snacks. Paul pointed to the table, smiling. "I know you don't like crowds, so I didn't take you out. Come on, there's food and drinks. Let's talk about it." I nodded, feeling the need to vent. After a few drinks, I was a bit drunk and saw Jenna approaching. "Jenna, what are you doing here?" I asked, surprised. Jenna looked a bit embarrassed at first, but quickly adjusted, smiling. "I heard you were feeling down, so I came to drink with you." She sat next to me and poured herself a drink. "All right, cheers." I was already tipsy and didn't think much, continuing to drink with her. For some reason, I felt Paul watching us with a meaningful look. After a while, I couldn't hold it anymore and stumbled to the bathroom. When I came out, I vaguely heard Paul and Jenna talking. "Cousin, I've done what I can. It's up to you now. I'll have a driver take you home. Be careful, and the rest is up to you." When I returned to the living room, Paul was gone. Jenna walked in from the door. What's going on? Where did Paul go? I asked, confused. Jenna blushed slightly and explained. His wife called him home, so I had the driver take him. I waved my hand, stumbled to the sofa, and sat down, muttering, Paul, that henpecked guy, is useless. I'm better off. I don't even have a girlfriend now. Who cares about me? I leaned back on the sofa, feeling dizzy and about to fall asleep. At that moment, a scent of perfume filled my nose. I opened my eyes and saw Jenna sitting beside me. She said softly, Jack, do you want someone to care about you? Her eyes were filled with allure and longing. Before I could respond, she kissed me passionately. I was stunned, watching Jenna kiss me clumsily and fervently. I could hardly breathe. I gently pushed her away, gasping for air, tasting a hint of blood. Jenna noticed and smiled shyly. Jenna, you're playing with fire, I said, my desire ignited by this little temptress. Since Carla pretended to have amnesia, it had been almost a year since I. Really? Jenna licked her lips and whispered, I'm feeling cold. Can your fire warm me up? Damn, did she know what she was doing? The alcohol fueled my desire, and I couldn't hold back anymore. I pushed her onto the sofa. A few minutes later, she clung to my back, crying softly, Jack, you're too rough. Who told you to tease me? My desire was fully ignited, and though I felt a bit dazed, I was also unsatisfied. Jenna leaned closer, her face against my shoulder, and asked softly, Jack, did you and her often do this? I felt awkward, unsure what she meant by this. Finally, I said helplessly, she got tired of me long ago, which is why she pretended to have amnesia. We haven't done this in a long time. Jenna said nothing more, quietly snuggling in my arms, her face still flushed. I looked down and saw the mess and bloodstains on the sofa, feeling a pang of guilt. Jenna, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were. She put her slender finger on my lips, stopping me from continuing. Jack, I was the one who seduced you. You don't have to feel guilty, she said firmly, her eyes still teary but determined. If you really feel guilty, then take responsibility for me. The next morning, I woke up with a headache, feeling groggy. Though I didn't often get drunk, I knew this was a hangover. Looking around the unfamiliar environment, I tried to recall what happened last night. Just then, Jenna opened the bedroom door and walked in. Jack, you're awake? Breakfast is ready. Seeing her, I felt a bit at a loss. Jenna, last night I stammered, unsure how to start. Jenna blushed and turned her head, saying, What, Jack? You weren't drunk enough to forget everything. Don't try to deny it. I'm not the type to shirk responsibility. Though I was drunk last night, I remembered what I did. Seeing me silent, Jenna walked over, anxiously saying, You said last night that you would take responsibility. I was a bit confused. Did I really say that last night? But Jenna didn't dwell on it, pulling me up and handing me a toothbrush and towel. After washing up, I went to the living room. The empty bottles and leftover food from last night were all cleaned up. On the dining table were a cup of honey water, a bowl of porridge, and some side dishes. You drank too much last night. Drink some honey water first, she said, pulling out a chair for me. I nodded, sat down, and drank the honey water. Jenna continued, I don't know how your appetite is now, so eat something light to nourish your stomach. I started eating the porridge slowly. For some reason, the porridge made me feel a warmth from the bottom of my heart. As I ate, I occasionally glanced at Jenna. She had her hair tied up simply, wearing casual clothes, and even without makeup, she looked naturally beautiful, with a slight blush on her face, giving me a sense of gentle warmth. Carla was different. When we first started dating in college, I enjoyed being pampered by her, but later things changed completely. I ended up taking care of her most of the time. This rich girl neither knew nor wanted to do housework. She loved going out and getting drunk, then coming back to control me, seemingly only wanting me to stay home as her house husband. I always thought she was my woman, and because of her past help, I tried to tolerate her. But maybe it was my excessive tolerance that made her lose respect for me. Once the novelty wore off, her love for me faded. Why are you looking at me? Jenna noticed my glances and pretended to be angry. Your ex-boyfriend was really lucky, I blurted out. regretting it immediately. Thinking about last night, she might not have had a boyfriend before. Sure enough, she rolled her eyes, blushing. I don't have an ex-boyfriend. Hearing this, I couldn't help but feel a bit happy, but then paused. Jenna, from college until now, why didn't you try to date someone? I knew she used to like me, just like Carla. After I agreed to Carla's confession, Jenna gradually distanced herself from me. It's been over 6 years. She lowered her eyes and said softly, I went on some blind dates and tried to get to know some people, but I never met the right one, so I just let it be. Hearing this, a selfish thought crossed my mind. Had she always had feelings for me, which made her unable to like anyone else? Of course, I didn't have the nerve to ask this, knowing it would mean I had wasted her years. After finishing the porridge, I realized this seemed to be Jenna's home. I immediately asked, why did Paul bring me here last night? I stared into Jenna's eyes, and she looked away, blushing. He said you were kicked out, and it wasn't convenient to take you to his place because of his wife, so. Seeing her blushing face, I still doubted the seemingly reasonable explanation. Just then, Paul sent me a message. Bro, sorry about last night. My wife insisted I come home early. But with Jenna keeping you company, you shouldn't have been lonely. As I read the message, Jenna's phone also chimed. She glanced at it, her face turning even redder. I felt like Paul had set me up, so I replied with one word, jerk. Just as I was about to question him, Carla also sent me a message. Well done. This time you even left the ring. I hope you can hold out longer this time and not come crying back to me. I couldn't help but laugh coldly. Carla, you think I'll beg you to get back together like before? No way. Rest assured, this time I'll do as you wish. After browsing the news online for a while, I decided to go on a trip far away from here. Recently, the Colorado mountains were very popular, and I had always wanted to experience them. I had mentioned it to Carla before, thinking a trip might help her mood. But at that time, she was still pretending to have amnesia and was cold to me, so she didn't want to go. I turned to Jenna and said, I'm planning to go to Colorado. Her eyes lit up, and she smiled. Great, I'll go too. I've never been there. She seemed very excited and booked the flight to Colorado that night, pulling me along to check out various travel guides. She kept sharing the stunning Rocky Mountain scenery and the famous ski resorts and historic Red Rocks Amphitheater in Denver. Seeing her excitement, I felt a bit dazed. What was this? I had just broken up with Carla, and now I was with Jenna. Was I a jerk too? My mind was a mess, and I decided not to dwell on these complicated feelings for now. In Colorado, Jenna and I experienced the local culture together. We visited Denver's Union Station, a century-old station now turned into a bustling cultural center filled with cafes, restaurants, and bookstores. We also went to Red Rocks Park for an outdoor concert, a place both ancient and vibrant, where many famous musicians had performed. The music echoing between the natural rock walls made me forget all my worries for a while. During the day, we hiked mountain trails, breathing in the fresh air of freedom, and at night, we relaxed our tired bodies in the hot springs of the ski town. We acted like a couple in love, eating together, and I took many photos of her. Every time I saw her smiling face, I couldn't help but feel that this simple happiness was incredibly precious. At night, we stayed together. Initially, I wanted to stay in separate rooms, but Jenna had booked the hotel, and she only reserved one room. I didn't want to spoil her mood or make her think I was rejecting her, so I didn't say anything. One evening, Lisa suddenly called me. I found it strange, but answered anyway. Jack, where are you? Can you come over? Carla is drunk again. I paused for a moment and replied calmly, Lisa, Carla and I have broken up. You were there that day. Please don't involve me in her matters anymore. She has nothing to do with me. If there's nothing else, I'll hang up now. Lisa was silent for a moment, then hurriedly said, Jack, listen to me. Jenna was right beside me, and I didn't want to upset her with Carla's issues, so I hung up. Soon, Lisa sent me a message explaining that the call was part of a game they were playing, and she had to call me as a dare. They wanted to see if I would still go to pick up Carla like I used to whenever we fought and broke up, only to reconcile later. To my surprise, Lisa also told me that Carla had heard my words and was furious, smashing a glass and storming out. I knew Carla well enough to understand why she was angry. She always thought she had complete control over me, believing I loved her and couldn't live without her. But now, I hadn't contacted her for 4 or 5 days, and I had just told Lisa that Carla had nothing to do with me anymore, which hurt her pride. Fearing Carla might call again to vent her anger, I turned off my phone. I looked at Jenna to see her reaction, and she hugged me, resting her head on my shoulder, asking softly, "Jack, will you get back together with her?" I hesitated for a moment, recalling everything that had happened, and firmly said, "No." Jenna's eyes lit up with a hint of joy, and she asked, "Do you still have feelings for her?" I looked at her and thought for a moment before saying, "If I have to be honest, there's still a shadow of her in my memory. We were together for many years, and we just broke up not long ago." Jenna's expression darkened, and she looked a bit hurt. She suddenly bit my shoulder lightly. "Hey, listen to me." I quickly stopped her and explained, "When I say I have her in my memory, I mean I remember her, not that I still love her. Breaking up with her was painful, but it was also a relief. These past few years with her, I felt increasingly suffocated, and she grew tired of me. She even pretended to have amnesia to deceive me, so she could openly." Before I could finish, Jenna interrupted, "Jack, I won't get tired of you. I love you. Let's be together officially." With that, Jenna suddenly kissed me. Her sudden confession left me stunned, and I didn't respond to her kiss. When I came to my senses, I gently pushed her away. "Sorry, Jenna. What's wrong? Why are you apologizing?" Jenna looked panicked and uneasy. I couldn't meet her eyes and said softly, "I don't want to start a new relationship right now." Jenna was taken aback, then demanded, "Jack, didn't you say you would take responsibility? What do these past few days mean? What do you take me for?" I clenched my fists, unable to look at her because I didn't know how to answer. I felt unworthy of her in my current state and unsure if I could love someone else. "Jack, you jerk!" Jenna cried, cursing me. She jumped out of bed, quickly dressed, and prepared to leave. "Jenna, where are you going?" I hurriedly got up, trying to stop her. She suddenly stopped, turned around, tears in her eyes, and choked out, "Sorry, I was being presumptuous. I shouldn't have bothered you. Since you don't love me, I shouldn't stay here." With that, she pushed the door open and left. As she walked out, I felt a sudden emptiness and inexplicable pain. I knew Jenna had genuine feelings for me, but I had been avoiding them, afraid to face her. I was scared she would become like Carla, growing tired of me after the initial excitement. I didn't want to go through the painful process of a relationship turning from passionate to indifferent to hateful again. If I had known it would turn out like this, I wouldn't have gotten involved with Jenna or trusted Paul, who had sent me to her place. Lost in thought for most of the night, I didn't know when I finally fell asleep. When I woke up again, I saw a message from Jenna. "I'm back." Just 4 short words, but they made me deeply feel her disappointment and pain. It was all my fault. I tried messaging her, but she didn't reply. I called, but she didn't answer. I knew she didn't want to talk to me, so I stopped bothering her. But after she left, I lost interest in staying in Colorado. The next day, I bought a ticket and returned to New York. Back in New York, I felt lost again. Where could I go? Some of my belongings were still at Jenna's place, but given the situation, how could I go back to her? After some thought, I contacted the instigator, Paul. When Paul came to pick me up, he looked puzzled and asked, "What happened? Weren't you and my cousin Jenna traveling in Colorado? Why are you back so soon and looking so down?" Seeing him, my anger flared up. "Paul, you have the nerve to ask. If you hadn't sent me to Jenna's place, things wouldn't have turned out like this." I told him everything that had happened between Jenna and me, my words filled with blame and regret. After listening, Paul frowned and said, "Jack, Jenna is a good girl. Why won't you accept her feelings?" I rubbed my temples, exhausted, and explained, "I really don't want to start a new relationship right now. I don't want to waste her time." "Don't be ridiculous, Jack." Paul raised his voice. "Do you know how long Jenna has liked you? Since college, she's had feelings for you. Even after you got together with Carla, she never really let go. She's been single all these years because she couldn't move on from you." Hearing this, I felt a mix of guilt and struggle. I lowered my head, my voice choked. "I know all this, and I feel terrible. But after what happened with Carla, my heart is deeply wounded. I'm afraid to invest in another relationship, afraid of getting hurt again. I don't want to hurt Jenna because of my uncertainty. Paul took a deep breath, patted my shoulder, and said gently, Jack, I understand you've been hurt, but not everyone will treat you like Carla did. Jenna truly loves you and won't hurt you. You can't let past pain stop you from finding happiness. I looked up, my eyes filled with conflict and hesitation. Maybe you're right, but I really need time to adjust. I don't want to start a new relationship when I'm not ready. It wouldn't be fair to either of us. Paul sighed and nodded. All right, I respect your decision. But please think it over carefully. Don't miss out on someone who truly loves you. I forced a smile, saying nothing more. So Jenna was Paul's cousin, which explained why he sent me to her place. Everything made sense now, but my heart felt even heavier. After a moment of surprise, I began to reflect on Paul's words. It seemed I had let Carla's betrayal and deceit make me afraid to love again. I had lost my sense of security and couldn't trust anyone's love. I doubted I could find true love again. But then I thought, why couldn't I find love? Carla was the one who betrayed me, not the other way around. I was the one who got hurt. Paul noticed my contemplation and asked softly, Jack, have you figured it out? You should have more confidence. You were the most handsome guy in college, and many girls liked you. Plus, you're a great person. If I were a girl, I'd like you too. I looked at him in surprise, and he continued, Jenna is a good girl. She knows you've been hurt and is willing to love you. Don't let her get hurt too. You can't let Carla's actions torment both you and Jenna. She doesn't deserve it. You should live better and make Carla regret her actions. I nodded, agreeing with Paul. You're right, but I've been deeply hurt, almost like PTSD. I'm afraid that if I get together with Jenna, the novelty will wear off, and we'll end up hating each other. Paul shook his head firmly. No, Jack. Jenna is different from Carla. She's a good girl who has liked you for many years. Now that she finally has a chance to be with you, she'll cherish it. Do you think she's like Carla? I sighed deeply, admitting that Jenna was indeed different from Carla. She was a good girl, and I shouldn't let her down. All right, I'll go find Jenna now. I finally decided. Of course, Paul shouted excitedly. Jenna will be thrilled to know you've come around. With that, Paul stepped on the gas, and the car sped towards Jenna's place. We quickly arrived at Jenna's house. I rang the doorbell, feeling both nervous and anxious. After a while, I heard Jenna's footsteps approaching. When the door opened, I saw her tear-streaked face, and my heart ached with guilt and regret. I had made this good girl cry. Paul was also taken aback, concerned. Jenna, have you been crying? Jenna looked at her cousin, then at me. I felt awkward, not knowing what to say, so I looked to Paul for help. Paul nodded at me, signaling that he would handle it. He stepped forward and whispered something in Jenna's ear. Her previously gloomy expression brightened instantly, and she turned to look at me. I nodded, confirming what Paul had said. Paul didn't say much more, pulling Jenna over to me and placing her hand in mine. All right, I'll leave you two to talk. If you need anything, call me. With that, he waved and left. As Paul walked away, Jenna and I stood there, looking at each other, unsure of what to say. Just as I was about to speak, she suddenly pulled me into the house and slammed the door shut. Inside, she cupped my face and covered my mouth with her hand. I was momentarily stunned, but quickly responded to her kiss. My heart raced and my face and ears grew hot. Jenna seemed to notice, gently touching my face. Jack, are you drunk or running a fever? After everything settled, Jenna lay in my arms, looking at me with a burning gaze. Jack, what are we now? I teased her. What do you think? She pouted, dissatisfied. I don't care. You have to be my boyfriend now. If you say anything to make me sad again, I'll... Her cute expression made me laugh, and I asked, what will you do? She whispered something in my ear, then suddenly grabbed my weak spot. I couldn't take it and begged for mercy. Jenna, darling, I won't do it again, I promise. After officially becoming a couple, Jenna and I lived like any ordinary couple. We cooked together, watched movies, went shopping, and did things we enjoyed. One day, we went to a restaurant Jenna had invested in, and unexpectedly ran into Lisa, who was dining there. She was one of Carla's friends who had a relatively good relationship with me, so I didn't pretend not to know her and greeted her. Jack, you guys. Lisa was stunned to see me and Jenna together. Jenna confidently smiled, stepped forward, and shook her hand. Hi, I'm Jack's girlfriend, Jenna. Lisa was taken aback for a moment, then awkwardly smiled and shook Jenna's hand. That evening, Carla sent me a message. Well, Jack, you managed to hold out for a month without begging me to get back together. I heard you're with Jenna now? You dare to use her to spite me. Huh? You've got guts. Reading her sarcastic tone, I felt a wave of inexplicable frustration and didn't know what to say, so I simply blocked her. A few days later, while Jenna and I were working out, my phone rang. I glanced at it and saw it was Carla calling. I swiped it away, not wanting to answer. What a buzzkill, I'm busy. A while later, the phone rang again. Who is it? Jenna grumbled, grabbing my phone. She saw the caller ID and paused. Carla? I nodded awkwardly, the phone still ringing. Just answer it, Jenna said, answering the call. As soon as the call connected, Carla's angry voice came through. Jack, you've got some nerve hanging up on me. Why aren't you talking? Have you had enough? If you don't come back, I'll really leave you. I reached out to take the phone, but Jenna put her finger to her lips, signaling me to stay quiet. She chuckled and said, Carla, it's me, Jenna. The voice on the other end was incredulous. Jenna? Why are you answering? Where's Jack? Let him take the call. Carla's voice was low, clearly suppressing her anger. Hearing Carla's voice, I felt annoyed, but not as easily swayed as before. He's busy right now. Can't take your call, Jenna said, looking at me with a playful smile. Busy with what? Let him come to the phone. Carla was already shouting. Jenna gently patted my chest, signaling me to stay quiet, then said calmly, busy working out with me. I was taken aback, not expecting Jenna to be so blunt, but I couldn't help but find it amusing and admirable. Jenna was clearly trying to provoke Carla, hitting her where it hurt. There was a moment of silence on the other end, then Carla started cursing, Jenna, you, but before she could finish, Jenna hung up and blocked Carla right in front of me. For the next few days, Carla didn't bother me since I had blocked all her contacts. One day, I accompanied Jenna to her company to handle some matters. At noon, as we walked out of the building hand in hand, we unexpectedly ran into Carla. She was leaning against her car, seemingly waiting for a while. I paused, stopping in my tracks. Jenna noticed her too and led me towards her, not wanting to pretend we didn't see her. Carla looked haggard, with dark circles under her eyes, clearly not resting well. Even with makeup, she couldn't hide her exhaustion and weakness, a stark contrast to the radiant and smiling Jenna beside me. I couldn't believe that the once elegant and powerful Carla could look so downcast. It was even more surprising to meet her again in such a way. Jack, Carla called softly, and I felt a pang of nostalgia, as if I hadn't heard her call me that in a long time. I'm here to take you back, she continued, ignoring Jenna's presence, looking at me with deep affection, her eyes welling up with tears. I couldn't remember the last time I saw her with such an expression, or if she had ever shown such vulnerability. Carla had always been strong-willed, but now she seemed different. Jack, come back with me, okay? You wanted to marry me, right? I agree, she said earnestly, making the moment feel surreal. How could this be Carla? She was saying these things now, but wasn't it too late? The wounds from her betrayal would never heal, and my heart had long been broken. Even if I grew a new heart, it would only hold Jenna. Jenna squeezed my hand, pulling me back to reality. I shook my head at Carla and said calmly, I'm with Jenna now. You should leave. Carla's eyes reddened, and she began to explain urgently. Jack, I was wrong. I regret it. I've thought a lot and realized I love you. I've kept all your things safe, and I still have the ring you bought me. I even got a new one made for you. Look. Her voice trembled as she took out a red box from her bag, walking towards me as if to propose. Seeing the mix of panic and hope in her eyes, I felt a pang of sadness. But I knew it was too late. I gritted my teeth and said firmly, Carla, we broke up. I'm with Jenna now. Jenna, as if to support me, grabbed my hand, showing Carla our intertwined fingers and the couple rings we wore. Carla's face turned pale, as if she had lost her soul. Jack, are you serious? I looked at her, then at Jenna, and nodded firmly, yes. Carla took a few steps back, silent for a moment, then laughed coldly. Jack, do you think Jenna is serious about you? In college, she competed with me for you and lost. We've had business conflicts too. She showed up right after we broke up. Don't you suspect her motives? Could it be that Jenna doesn't truly love you, but just wants to win against me? Hearing Carla's words, I felt even more determined. This woman had never truly respected me, always treating me as her possession. Her fake remorse was just because she couldn't stand losing to Jenna. Knowing her true nature, I had no more doubts. The past was the past. I took a deep breath, staying calm, and looked at Jenna. She met my gaze and said firmly, Jack, don't listen to Carla. I truly love you. I regret letting her take you away in college and seeing you suffer all these years. I nodded, feeling more certain of my love for Jenna. Seeing her expression, I instinctively tightened my grip on her hand, giving her more support. Carla saw this and angrily pointed at Jenna, cursing, You shameless vixen! How dare you steal my man? Jenna didn't back down, coldly retorting, Carla, you're a disgusting control freak who doesn't deserve Jack's love. Carla went berserk, her face twisted with rage. You schemed to take the man who was with me for 6 years. What's there to be proud of? Do you really love him, or just want to take what's mine? Jack has been with me for so long. Don't you care? I don't believe it. Jenna couldn't take it anymore and slapped Carla hard. Carla was stunned by the slap, and when she came to her senses, she lunged at Jenna. Jenna, I'll fight you. They started wrestling, pulling each other's hair. I rushed to separate them, but they were too fierce, and I got hit several times. Fortunately, some security guards arrived and pulled them apart, finally calming the chaos. I quickly hugged Jenna, trying to calm her down. Carla, still furious, shouted, Jack, did you see that? She hit me first. I turned to Carla and said, Yes, Jenna hit you first. I apologize on her behalf. Carla, however, was not appeased, angrily retorting, Apologize? I don't accept apologies. She stole my man and hit me. Is there no justice? Jenna, still fuming, pouted and said, Jack, she insulted me first. I couldn't hold back. I knew both were emotional, so I nodded repeatedly to calm Jenna. All right, Jenna, calm down. Carla, however, wouldn't let it go, pointing to her face. Jack, you're just going to protect her? Look at what she did to me. I looked at Carla calmly and said, Carla, you should go to the hospital. I'll cover the medical expenses. Carla was taken aback, her expression freezing. Jack, you know that's not what I want. Her anger dissipated, replaced by a look of sorrow. Ignoring Carla, I turned to Jenna, who was holding her face and wincing. Jack, it hurts. Check if my face is ruined. I examined her face and saw a small cut on her lip. I gently scolded. See what happens when you fight? Jenna shook her head, looking pitiful. I won't fight again. It hurts too much. Feeling sorry for her, I asked, Do you need to go to the hospital? She shook her head, pouting, No, just kiss it better. Carla, seeing this, said nothing more, covering her face and getting into her car. I watched her car drive away, silently saying goodbye to our past. Jack, Jenna called softly. I snapped back to reality, smiling as I touched her face. Let's go home and put some ointment on it. Jenna pouted. No ointment, just your kisses. After Carla's outburst, I saw her true nature and came to terms with many things. The past wounds began to heal, and the burden on my heart lightened. Jenna whispered many comforting words in my ear. Jack, I don't care about your past. I'll cherish you and never leave you. In the past, I might not have believed these words, but now I did. I finally understood that I was worthy of love. After that, Jenna and I had a stable relationship, and we eventually got married. On our wedding day, the sun shone in the courtyard, casting dappled shadows through the leaves. We chose a small but exquisite chapel surrounded by flowers and greenery, like a fairy tale setting. Friends and family gathered, and Paul, my best man, stood by my side, making jokes to ease my nerves. Jenna, in an elegant white wedding dress, walked towards me with her father. Her smile was as bright as the sun, and I felt an unprecedented sense of peace and happiness. When she reached me, we looked into each other's eyes as if the world had shrunk to just the two of us. The priest guided us through our vows, and Jenna's voice trembled slightly but was full of determination. "I do, forever with you." When it was my turn, I held her hand, feeling her warmth, and said softly but firmly, "I do. I will love and cherish you for the rest of my life." Every detail of the wedding was meticulously planned. Jenna's friend Emily, her maid of honor, bustled around to ensure everything went smoothly. Paul, during the ring exchange, gave me an encouraging look as if saying, "You did it, buddy." As the wedding drew to a close, a gift from Carla arrived, a pair of small statues engraved with our names. Everyone gathered to see, and Jenna opened the attached card, which read, "Wishing you happiness." In that moment, Jenna's eyes reflected a sense of closure and hope for the future. The last line of the card touched me deeply. "Thank you for teaching me what love is." I held Jenna's hand tightly, feeling a sense of fulfillment and happiness I had never known. The wedding ended with laughter and blessings. At the reception, Jenna's father gave a heartfelt speech, tears in his eyes. Jenna has always been the pride of our family, and now she has found her happiness. I am truly happy for her. That night, Jenna and I danced under the stars, with our favorite song playing in the background. In that moment, I felt all the pain and past wounds had healed, and the future before us was filled with hope and love.